Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Food News and Shoes Radio, sponsored by Sullivan University. How's everybody doing today? Chef Jeremy, Sylvie, Norman, how's everybody?
Yeah. And we're going to catch up with Sullivan here in a little bit because we love Sullivan. And Norman will bring us up to date on that. But we're going to talk a little bit about Derby foods.
Yeah, Derby foods.
And what's the first thing Derby food comes to mind?
Hot brown.
Hot brown.
And it's not even that Derby-ish. It's just whenever I think horses in Kentucky, it just kind of pops in there. I don't know why.
Bread pudding.
But it's...
Right?
Bread pudding.
Or is that more of a Keeneland thing?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, and
mint
of course
julep.
we have the mint juleps, right?
I just think of snacks.
Benedictine.
Benedictine.
You go to a Derby party, and it's just like a potluck.
Right.
There's just snacks and little meatballs and things with toothpicks.
and you kind of let yourself go.
So I think...
right.
I think you're right about that, Twitch. Like, we do a lot of Derby catering. Derby parties are a big deal around here. So Dupree has them all the way from Louisville all the way stretched to Lexington.
Yeah.
And it's always some kind of snacky, Derby kind of
Simple.
food. It's never
Simple.
It's never a sit-down meal.
No.
It's always heavy order.
Yeah.
Bourbon balls. Don't forget
Bourbon balls. That's good.
Yeah.
Now, some of the essential ingredients are like what snacky food are. Like just like cheese and...
Yeah, let me tell you, there's a few that we're trying out this year, kind of new, because we're trying to rethink some of the Derby foods. Because quite frankly, we've been at this for 30 years in catering, and some of these foods you have to reinvent them a little bit to make them form. So Benedictine, we've kind of redone. Sylvia did Benedictine.
Yeah, I did that on TV
on television. Cucumbers, green onions, cream cheese, nice spread. We've been thinning that out with a little bit of buttermilk and turning it into a dip. And then we're just frying up sweet corn fritters actually for the dip. So, Kentucky's just kind of rich with corn.
It forward. You're bringing that
exactly.
forward.
So Weisenberger Mills self-rising cornmeal, a little bit of sugar, and lots of fresh Kentucky corn kernels, right? And we just drop those in the fryer and make hush puppies, basically. And that's what we dip the cucumber.
When are you making those?
Dip with
Are you doing those soon?
That's on one of our Derby parties, but it's a menu item for Dupree. But I'll run those at Azure on the patio in the springtime. That sounds like a good one.
Sneak a couple of those.
Yeah.
For your old pal Sil.
Another one is around here we find that everybody likes biscuits. It's just right. And hot browns, we used to use toast and all kinds of stuff but we're doing kind of a beer cheese biscuit hot brown, and we're folding beer cheese into the biscuit, but also the Mornay sauce is now beer cheese. So it's a small little mini biscuit, little bit of smoked turkey, smoked ham, smoked bacon.
Ooh.
The hot brown is something.
Cheese.
It lends itself to a lot of different applications, doesn't it?
Totally, man.
Yeah.
I don't know where the original, maybe croque madame or croque monsieur would have been the inspiration. I mean, this is not a new idea, an open-faced meat sandwich, right?
Right.
But the way we do it in Kentucky is good. But anyway, a biscuit, the smoked turkey, smoked ham, smoked bacon, beer cheese.
How
tomato.
tricky is the sauce? Because I've never been able to what is it called? It's Mornay.
So Mornay for your traditional. And guys, check this out. All you really need to do is melt a couple tablespoons of butter in a pan. And then once that's fully melted, use a tablespoon or two of flour, just enough to where the flour soaks up all the butter, and you kind of have to scrape it across the bottom of the pan. And what you've done is made a roux. If you have that, then add milk to it, a couple cups, and then slowly bring it up, and it's going to thicken. You're going to whisk it and make sure it's on low heat to not scorch it. So this is just a basic bechamel. Properly, you'd use an onion pick and a lot of classic French stuff to make it taste different, right? And chefy. But the base sauce you can just do with the flour, the butter, the milk, and then just fold in your favorite cheese at the end. And
that's all.
That's a nice cheese sauce for anything, Or
could you use that more universally, like on broccoli or something?
Absolutely.
Well, really,
Yeah,
what
or
you're
your
making is nacho cheese. I mean, in its simplest form, it's nacho cheese sauce.
It really is. So that's your queso. I mean, it's
queso. It's nacho cheese. It's,
right. And then if you want to. What's kind of cool about this one, when you do the cream or milk based, is they're reheatable. They last longer. Otherwise, you're going to use a white wine or a stock, and then you're talking about making fondue, which is kind of a heat and eat. You can't really bring that one back.
Right.
It just turns back into solidified cheese and oil and breaks, and it's not good. But anyway, back to Derby, right?
Yeah.
So what do you eat for
Derby?
Derby? Like what do you actually eat for Derby? When you're having a party
like
at
a
your
main
house.
course kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Do you even do a main course, or is it more like a
more
snacky thing?
I think it's more
That's
snacky.
all snacky every time I see it. You know, the only thing that I see a lot of is this like beef tenderloin on rolls. People have that.
Sure.
That's
or
kind
those
of
ham
an
biscuits,
entree.
maybe.
Ham biscuits and beef tenderloin rolls. That's
kind
that's
of finger
the
food.
entree in Derby, right? You know, and other folks will put on a pot of burgoo, and that's kind of the entree. And then they have lots of snacky stuff around that. But yeah. Anyway, Derby foods are awesome.
Yeah, they are yummy.
And
we're looking
you got
forward to it. And
in the second half of the show today, we're going to talk to Ellis Starr,
Right.
who is going to, speaking of Derby, who is the guy who, hopefully knows all with Derby, also at Bourbon and Bets,
Right.
will help people make their Derby bets, or at least help you know what you should maybe be looking at. Obviously, no bets are 100%. That's why it's called betting. But Ellis Starr seems to know a thing or two.
That's right.
He
Azor's
does.
going to give him the bourbon and the food, and Ellis is going to give him the bets.
yeah, and that is coming right up, right? Sold
It
out.
is.
Sold out.
It's-
Sold
it's-
out.
It's a sold out one, guys. But next year we do it every year. We'll get you. You know, this is the place to hear it first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ellis, I've got a couple of food questions to ask Ellis. I know some secrets about Ellis.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Good.
so that'll be fun.
Good deal.
But we're going to talk about Sullivan.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite things. Sullivan is an unsung hero of being a culinary hero in this region. I mean, they are doing such phenomenal things.
That's the only reason I think that Lexington's grown from an independent and chef creative standpoint in the past 10 years. I mean, this is a corporate meat and potatoes town up until 15 years ago.
Right.
15, that's when Sullivan started pushing out really quality chefs into the
Most
neighborhood,
places
so to
don't
speak.
have like a high-end culinary incubator
No.
where
High-end
talent
incubator. That
yeah,
sounds good.
where
Oh, way
talent
to
comes
put
out
it.
of. I mean, most people who go to culinary school move to
Mm-hmm.
go somewhere else because it's just the way it is. But we are lucky enough to have two really good culinary schools in the region, one in Louisville, one in Lexington, that's pretty good for a place our size.
I think so.
I think so, yeah.
And
I
it's
mean,
probably spawned some of the incubators around town that we know are out there. And I know it spawned your core of chefs, of young chefs.
Yeah, all the interns and all the new independent restaurants are opened by Sullivan chefs, it seems.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And Norma has been on Secret Patrol. No, not so secret. Yeah, she's kind of a well-known figure over there. And she's going to bring us up to date on some programming. And I should mention that next week we're actually, and they do have some Derby connections. And we're going to have Marika Adams on, who is one of their superstar staff people that's going to be on to talk about even more programs. So, there's so much to talk about. We've got to talk about it twice. So, what's going on at Sullivan, Norma?
Okay, so it's one of my favorite gigs too, and I got to go over the other day and check out one of their brand new programs, which is the Five Senses. It's an interactive campus experience, and where, other than the kitchen, would you be most likely to use your five senses? So it's perfect. They got to watch chefs do demonstrations.
Who's this for? Who goes?
It's for
Anybody?
It's for the students.
Prospective
it's
people?
for prospective students. This group of actually there's about 150 people there, and they are all Eastern Kentucky high school, I believe, in this particular group.
They've got a real wild man who he's so good, high school liaison, right?
Oh, Derek. Yeah,
Yeah.
Derek Carty. Yeah, he was there involved. I'm going to talk about in a
He's
minute a
high
game
energy.
that we were playing. He's very high energy. So they got to move between stations and see. They were making pasta. They were using chocolate to do all kinds of fun
Were you doing that
things.
too?
No, I didn't get to play. I was videoing though, which I'll post some of the videos on the Facebook page. But watching them
Now,
play.
there was
were having
supposed
fun.
to be a Chef Shadow, and they had to postpone that.
Chef Shadow was
Tell about
post-
the Chef Shadow program.
Well,
though.
Chef
It's
Shadow was
awesome.
postponed, but Chef Shadow is something they do at least twice a year.
yeah.
And they bring in a group of prospective students. And I might mention, too, that the prospective students aren't always high school. There are some, second career people. And I had a chance to talk to a student that's second career up from Florida. And they spend the day going through the different stations, making different items for a big lunch that they put on.
Well, that's a growing phenomenon, that second career group.
Oh, yeah.
People, I mean, I think this is a demographic we all ought to pay attention to on this radio show and everywhere. I'm really into it right now because the people, like, there's people in their 60s and 70s, I mean, really old people like me, who are going back into a second career, and they're healthy enough to do it. And that's, I think, an area that Sullivan is probably trying to get into, because they might want to learn how to cook or get an associate degree or something. They might want to go back.
Oh, absolutely.
So working on both ends of the spectrum, the young people in the high schools and then the old people.
Oh, and absolutely. Second careers, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think
Restaurant business.
there's also so many more things opening up in terms of, like, not just restaurants. There's food science, there's food marketing, there's, retail food. It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
you
right.
go to culinary school to, pump it out in a restaurant. There's
That's
other
right.
ways to do things.
And also the management side, the resort side, the management side, the business side.
Yeah.
Or
And,
even-
and that's the other thing about
Yeah.
60s and 70s. They have money.
Yeah.
And they're spending it, and they're going places, and they're, so that's one of the reasons for having a strong culinary scene. Is you got all these folks who have the leisure time and the leisure money. So what else is going on at
Right.
Sullivan?
So they take these people through these, and then the other thing they did, which was really fun, they get them all in a room and they say, "Play a game. Want to play? Want to play this game?
Do we have time to play
Do
a
we have
game?
time to play
Sure.
a game?
Yeah,
Okay. Potato, pepper, or band?
Band.
No. You gotta tell me which when I tell you. Green Day.
Band.
Oh, it's a band, yeah.
Okay. Scotch bonnet.
Pepper.
Yes. The Duke of York.
I'm going to let you guys say that
What
one.
was the other one? What was it? Rock band, what? Pepper or...
Or
Pepper, potato, or band.
I'm
It's
going to
gotta
be
be
the
a
Duke
it
of
gotta
the
be
potato. Yeah.
I'm going to say potato.
Good.
I'm losing.
Red
I have-
Hot Chili Pepper.
That's a band, but it's
Yeah.
also a
It's also
pepper.
a pepper. All right.
yeah.
What's a band? I don't get it.
Like a music band.
Like a music rock band.
People who get together to play
I'm
music.
sorry.
I have 10 people living with me right now. Have I mentioned that?
I'm sorry. Anyway,
Are they
band.
potatoes, bands?
How many kinds of potatoes? Are there a lot of different
there's
kinds of potatoes?
4,000 approximately
Four.
different potatoes, most of which, fun fact, are in the Andes and don't get out. But
So-
they're about 150.
Purple.
that-
I'm going to admit to you
Purple.
right now, I had
Purple and
no
blue.
idea that was a potato. It was a strong guess because I
Yeah.
don't know a pepper or a band name.
What did
About
he
how many
guess?
varieties of potatoes
What did
do
he
you
guess? I missed this.
Oh, the Duke of York. It's a
It's a potato.
Uh-huh.
cook? About how many varieties of potato do you cook with?
I mean, really, I use russets, fingerlings, sweet potatoes, Okinawas.
What about those purple ones? Haven't you had
Yeah,
those?
we use Peruvian purples. That's really the
That's where the
red
Andes is,
potatoes,
isn't it?
the new potatoes. We grow a lot of those locally too. So those are pretty much on our menu towards July through.
Think
What
about
it
the
is
time.
about the Andes.
But I don't know about all
Cool.
the potatoes.
I guess the growing conditions, because all those countries.
Wouldn't it be cool?
Yeah,
Could be
mountainous,
the Andes.
rocky
mountainous.
soil. You would think about it. When we were younger, you went to the grocery store, they had potatoes. They had one style of potatoes. They were brown.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
And now,
And now you can go in and there's just even a regular Kroger will have 6 or 7 different varieties
I
and
remember
different sizes.
when I was becoming a chef, like the Yukon Gold potato was
oh, I
hot,
love
man.
those.
Oh, yeah.
I love
And
those.
everybody was switching over and making mashed potatoes with those. Now they're all back to russets. I don't
Not
know
me.
like how the style and trends of potatoes changed through the years, but they
Let me
do.
ask you this: what does it matter what you bake with? Like, does it? Is it
Yeah,
just
sure
taste,
does.
or does it taste? Is that all that matters?
You
Makes a
want a
difference?
Idaho russet baker is what you want, and you want to do 250 to 300 degrees for a real
What is it?
long
250?
time.
Yeah, okay.
Talking that's the secret. I mean, the best baked potatoes. If England has anything to claim for culinary, it's they cook baked potatoes perfectly in England.
Did you see that the big
take their
potato
time to
came
do
to
it.
town?
The big potato.
Did y'all know that? The
No.
Iowa big potato,
Oh, the
the largest potato
Oh, yeah.
ever.
I've seen that thing.
Yeah, it came into
How
town.
big was it?
It was enormous, but
Like
I
a
I don't
car?
know. I wanted to go up and touch it and see if it was actually
I think
real.
it's
So
on
if
one
you-
of those like
It's on a big
truck
flatbed
bed,
truck.
flatbed.
yeah.
If you're a home cook and you like to cook, maybe you're not a chef, and you got to
Yeah.
get one solid potato just to keep it all. Which is your good general purpose
General
potato?
purpose potato.
Wow, that is a hard question, man.
Something that can do, it can mash, it can bake, you can fry it. One potato to end all the other potatoes. Would you go with Yukon Gold? Is that like the most?
That's what I get.
I would think
don't cook
that seems
very
like, because
often.
if you go with a red potato, red potatoes are good for some things, but
But you know what I like? I like the skins on
Yes.
potatoes.
See, I think that's where I'm kind of torn on the question. Is skin does matter for
Right.
cooking preparation. So the russet,
Has thicker
Idaho
skin.
baker is going to cover every scenario. Whereas a thin skin Yukon is not going to be a good baked potato.
not be a great fried
No.
potato
Not
either.
going to be a great
Well,
fried
okay,
potato.
how do
So
you
I think
make-
I'm going to have to go with that utility old classic.
Tilly russet.
How do you make the skin crispy?
Oh, on the potato?
Yeah.
So you want to
the best.
basically toss the whole baked potato in olive oil and then salt the heck out of it. Salt the devil out of it,
Yeah.
man. Just
Do you wrap it in foil?
So you can. I think that actually ends up causing a little problem if you're looking for crispy, though.
Right, I love crispy.
If you have an elevated rack for your baking tray, that's really going to help and space them apart. But convection bake them.
Do you poke? Because I don't poke. I don't like to poke.
You mean like
Never
a fork?
poke.
Yeah,
Poke?
some people
Never.
poke, and I don't
do.
like.
No
I don't
bueno,
poke.
guys.
Wow,
Don't do
wow.
it.
It lets the steam out, which makes the inside less fluffy and creamy.
We want fluffy.
You want fluffy, you want creamy.
We want fluffy.
So the fluffiest,
poke.
creamy potato is going to be what I'm talking about, like the 3-hour,
I always
300-degree
poke.
bake.
Yeah. See, I think also when you poke, the moisture gets out and it keeps the skin from getting crispy.
You know what I'm always afraid of? That the potato will explode if I
I've
don't
never.
poke.
Now I
Well,
can't.
are you microwaving it?
No. in
Okay,
the
good.
oven.
Now listen, I
So it
can't
won't
say that won't
explode?
happen, but I'm 45 years old and
You've
probably
never
cooked
exploded
10,000.
a
I've
potato?
never seen an exploding potato. I don't know that it doesn't. I can't say it won't happen.
Oh, they're out
always
there.
heard of
Are they
it,
out there?
but
They're
I
out
haven't
there.
ever
That's
seen
what
it.
I, yeah.
Never
See,
seen
I'm not being really stupid.
I've seen exploding Pyrex. I've seen exploding Corningware, but
I
I've
have
ne-
seen that.
Oh, I've
that
experienced that.
happens.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that Pyrex thing.
Yeah, the Corningware back in the
Happened at a
day.
Thanksgiving once in our family.
Hot pan, cold water, crap. Not good.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a potato explode.
I think I've seen it all, guys. I've seen stuff do things it shouldn't do. Like, how does that
But no
happen?
exploding
What is,
potatoes.
in your estimation, what is the most dangerous? Not being reckless, but the most dangerous normal thing that happens in a kitchen that can get someone hurt that people should really be more careful of. You got one? Just dangerous.
Go ahead.
And I was just going to say cut finger.
Cut your finger.
Cut finger, sure. Knife skills.
Trying to catch a knife. A lot of people are really nervous when they first enter a kitchen. There's a chef watching them and they're prepping their first vegetables. Inevitably, they get nervous and they drop the knife
Oh.
because they want to save face. They try to catch it on the way down.
Oh.
Ouch. That
Just
makes
let
me
it hit
hurt.
the floor, guys.
See,
makes me hurt.
to me, I always see people when they have oil in a pan and they
Yes.
accidentally get water and they get it wet. That's
Yeah.
and it's
That or a gas stove where you don't put the things on right and somebody starts to cook. That's happened to me. It's a gas stove with open flame
yeah.
and it singes their fingers because it's I don't know, it's those little center things
Yeah.
that go down on the gas stove. And if they're cockeyed, then the flame comes up all of a sudden. It's not contained.
Also, something people really need to
that's
know,
not everybody
and
has.
you learn this once the hard way. Wet towels do not make good pot holders.
So yeah, I'm going to mention that because overall, in general, I was going to say steam is an issue, especially for inexperienced people and home
yes,
cooks.
steam
Steam
would
is a
be-
thing that
you open up that.
it's the most violent form of cooking, and it will burn you the quickest. And
That's
it's the worst kind of burn.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
Oh,
steam,
yes.
just stay away,
It's
and
very
that goes back to
comprehensive.
your towel. You don't want a wet towel, hot pan. That happens in the kitchen all the time. But just removing or opening a lid to a steam well or a
Sure.
pot,
Yeah.
that's where I see a lot of just first and second degrees on the hands and face.
But back to Sullivan.
They'll teach you how to
you
open
can
up
learn
stuff.
all
Have
of
to do this
this
stuff.
if
Right.
you go to Sullivan and you sign up and at least do their tours and understand or send your high school kids to Chef Shadow. And I mean that's it's a bigger deal being a restaurant owner entrepreneur. These are big issues that people ought to know about, and that's stuff that you learn, like food safety and all that kind of stuff. you know?
Absolutely. They teach all the whole food safety
The whole
program.
gamut.
And as John Foster says, even if you decide not to be a chef, you'll learn skills
You'll
you'll use
learn.
for a lifetime.
That's right,
So-
like how not to get steamed and how not to get flamed and how not to get whatever you get.
The knife.
Whatever happens. Anyway.
Now,
We love Sullivan.
we love
Absolutely.
Sullivan. And one thing we also love is horses. And when we come back, we're going to talk to the Handicapper to the Stars, Ellis Starr, about Derby, Bourbon and Bets.
Do you think he changed his name to that?
I think
reason?
so.
Yeah.
I do. I really do.
We'll ask about it.
Don't go anywhere. It's Food News and Shoes Radio. Hey, welcome back. It's Food News and Shoes Radio. What is better than Derby time in Kentucky?
Or Ellis Starr.
Or Ellis Starr? Nothing.
He's
Derby-
a superstar. Did you change your name to say Star?
No, luckily I was born with it. But
You were
it
born a
certainly
star.
worked out
I love
nicely. Thank you.
Yeah, I always think it's a start. It's always
so
get
much.
fun because we get to do this event with Ellis every year around Derby, Bourbon and Bets at the restaurant. And I got to come up with like 4 Triple Crown Derby winning dishes to go with, to hold up to this guy, man, because he's kind of the star of the show.
I
for
know
us.
he is. He's so well known. You are the Uber capper, right?
That's the name that my son, when he was like 8 years old, chose for me, and I decided to go with it. And it's worked out pretty well. At least people know who I am, and so
Nice.
All
it's
right.
worked out well. It's always fun this time of year, and I certainly look forward to this event at Azure. It's nothing but fun seeing old friends and new ones.
And when is this? It's
talking
next
about
Wednesday?
the Derby?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I need to catch you guys up, listeners. So Bourbon and Bets is an event that Ellis Starr attends at his old restaurant every year. This is going to be like the 12th year, I think, we've done this, which is pretty incredible. This is probably the longest running chef series that we have. Ellis, he's the Uber capper. He picks his horses for Oaks and Derby. He shows up at the restaurant just in time, and they're hot off the press.
Oh, yeah.
And we kick off basically a 4-course meal paired with Kentucky bourbons. Of course, this is Derby time,
Of
right?
course.
And then he goes table by table with his race sheet and kind of gives people the picks on what he feels is going to happen for those races.
Is this besides what colors the jockeys are wearing? Or
Yeah, we did ask that question to our listeners, Ellis. How do you determine who's going to win the race? And there's some interesting answers, whether it's physiological or a color, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Oh no, come on! It's a Magic 8 Ball, right?
With
Yeah.
the magic
Yeah.
eight ball.
But you're pretty good. I mean, you do really well. So you do the science. You look at like where they were raised, who their mama and their daddy were, and all that stuff, right?
Well, yeah, but at this time of year, to be honest, Sylvia and Jeremy, these are the athletes going to the World Series.
It's
so
true.
they've proven themselves in February and March and April, and they're all bringing their A games, and some A games are going to be better than another. So I do look at a lot of the pedigree, but it's a lot of what they've done and just trying to guess how they're going to improve from their last preparatory race in April until the first Saturday in May. And it's nothing more fun than talking about the Derby.
Ellis, do you ever just look at a horse, look in its eyes, and say, no? Just no. Not you. I mean, imagine at some
not
point,
today.
It's
you
the
look-
cross-eyed ones. You can't look in their eyes.
You look at every other
I
factor of a horse, like where it was bred and how much it weighs and what it ate and when's the last time it peed and all that. But at some point, you just look at it in the eye and go, no, you're a loser.
Well, I think I wouldn't say that. I'd say 2 things. First of all, some horses just aren't as good as others when it comes to the first Saturday in May, and then some appear as good as others on paper, and then they get into this race with 20 horses, and it becomes a little bit of a pushing and shoving match in the first few hundred yards, and they decide that they don't want any part of it. But in regular races, I'll answer the question by saying, occasionally you see a horse just dancing on his toes, and occasionally they don't usually wink at you though, but you can tell which ones are probably better than the others. And there's always surprises. Last year, the world was surprised by Rich Strike at a ridiculous 80 to 1 odds.
Is there a front runner that right now?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Do you have a good indication of who's
Like
going to
right
be
now,
coming
it's hard to
into
predict.
this race?
But who's the front
Right
runner?
now, yeah, no, I absolutely. I've whittled it down from 20. Right now, we're at about 24, 25. I've kind of whittled it down to 10, maybe. That
wow.
I think
10.
have more
Okay.
chances than the rest. And I'll look at it again in a couple of days. By the time we do the event, I'll have my little sheet, which usually has 6 out of 20 that I
6
think
out
can
of
run better
20.
than the rest, and maybe some others that might finish second and third. But the leader right now, and the leader in the pack is a horse named Forte. It's well named. Sometimes you name horses and they don't live up to the names, but his forte is winning races. He's won
Is
6
winning
out of
races.
7 of his
Love
races,
Wow.
I love
and
that.
he's the leading contender right now, having won both of his races this year. There's another interesting horse named Angel of Empire who I'm actually siding on him being maybe my top pick because he's won two of
Okay.
his last races, including the big race in Arkansas, the Arkansas Derby, and he did that very powerfully. So those two are very, very interesting. The horse that won the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland named Tappet Trice.
Yeah.
Also a very
Yeah,
good
yeah,
horse.
yeah.
He's won 4 of his 5 races. So this goes back to what I said about these top 4, 5, 6 contenders all bringing their A game coming into this race.
Fabulous. Yeah.
Do
I
you
know.
think though? Do you think that horses have? I've heard from people who train horses that the horses kind of know. They have this attitude, and the real confident horses know. They have this like walk. They
talked about it in the back.
Swagger.
Yeah,
They have swagger.
They have a swagger. Do
Yeah,
you
they have
believe
swagger.
that the horses are kind of aware of what's going on, and they really do want to win?
Yeah, they worked it out in the barn before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That 100,000, if it's 1,000%, I'll say 100%. Yes, horses have attitudes. There are alphas.
Yeah.
There are leaders, and there are followers. And the horse is going to run to the best of its ability if it's happy. But at this level, when you get to the graded stakes, not just the Derby, but the other stakes on Derby Day in each division, like on grass and for males and for females and short and long, a lot of these horses have proven themselves to be alphas, and they want to win. They know they're good, and they exude a little bit of swagger. And that's a
Swagger.
great word for it.
Hey, I know Chef wants to get into food, but I'm going to ask Ellis a question.
Yeah.
When are your peppers coming in? He
Boy,
grows
it's
the
a
best
great question.
peppers.
It's been a weird season. We
Oh,
had
no.
that heat wave a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
actually have my peppers growing inside right now. And I hopefully, if I get 2, 3 good weeks of heat and get them back on my deck, we'll have lots of peppers for the spring and the summer. And I'll bring them for you and for the restaurant, anybody that wants them.
Yeah, we'll make
They
a
are
hot
good.
sauce with those.
I love those.
So, Ellis, in terms of our local breeders and, I don't know, trainers and such like that, anybody from here that you think is going to be showing up at the Derby? Any of our local
Oh,
heroes?
absolutely. Yep. One of the top trainers in North America is Brad Cox, and he's a Louisville native. He's based in Louisville. I think he grew up in Louisville, and he's become one of the top trainers over the last few years. He started with a horse named Nick's Go, who won the Breeders' Cup Classic. Just a tremendous horse, and he's got a number of horses in here. One of the ones I mentioned earlier, Angel of Empire, who won the Risen Star Stakes and the Arkansas Derby, Louisiana and in Arkansas. Brad Cox has another horse named Hit Show, who was just second, just beaten by a couple inches in the big prep of New York called the Wood Memorial. And he's got another one called Verifying, who also suffered a tough defeat. He was beaten in the neck in the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes by Tappet Trice. So Brad Cox is probably the local trainer that we all think of that's locally based. He runs year round, and he's got probably 3 horses in the
Yeah,
race.
kind of a rising star.
Wow.
But
3
you were going to ask
horses in
about
the
the
race.
food at
Well, yeah,
Keeneland.
actually,
Yeah.
in terms of also one thing I want to know is like when Chef Mark at Keeneland first started, I got to meet him and talk to him, and he had a particular vision for Keeneland and what he wanted to do. And I was like, this is a legacy racetrack with legacy foods, and the vision seemed good, but I just wanted to see what the tone is out there in terms of the food, because we love our bread pudding, we love our
Yes.
burgoo, we love our Keeneland chili dogs, but it seems like things are elevated there, and I think it has to do with Mark. But you're there, and you could tell us.
I just know when I go to the various dining rooms to meet with groups or the corporate boxes and even the concession stands, everybody's happy. I mean, the food has been
Yeah.
phenomenal. They've switched to a buffet in one of the areas. In other areas, just has table service still and great menu. But most of the big dining rooms have buffets. And I've seen prime rib and I've seen ham and
Nice.
tremendous sides. The bread pudding recipe hasn't changed. It's still the bread pudding with the Maker's Mark sauce. And people just get spoiled by it. It is just so good.
You know what's
and
cool
the
about that?
concessions have been great. I had a Kentucky dog for the first time. I don't know why.
Kentucky
they have it
dog?
before.
What's a
They
Kentucky
serve
dog?
Quarter pound. Kentucky dog. A Kentucky dog comes with a giant scoop of burgoo and banana peel.
See, that's all right.
I'm there.
I mean, instead of chili, you got burgoo on a dog.
That sounds
Yep.
amazing, actually.
All the critters
Oh.
in one bite.
Yeah, and you have to go like to the downstairs kind of stuff. These aren't in the rooms. The rooms
what?
are more upscale.
Exactly.
These are the concession stands for the common folk.
In the bread pudding,
go there.
common or whatever, concession stand, food truck. I don't care where you put that bread pudding. It holds up at a concession stand, or it would hold up on a plate served to the queen. I mean, really, it has a place anywhere in the world.
A Kentucky dog, though, man, that's worth a trip out there to get it.
Yeah, I'm on my way.
Why do you think it's so good? Why do you think it's so good?
What, bread pudding?
Yeah, like why do you think theirs specifically is so good?
Well, I know the recipe well, and I think if you really want to get into it, everybody loves Sister Schubert's yeast rolls, right? And,
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the base bread they use. I've used just plain old white bread or stale bread, whatever you want. The real secret is keeping your egg and milk ratio right, because there's only eggs, milk, salt, cinnamon, sugar in this. It's really not a complicated recipe. But when you pour it on the bread, you really want to soak that for as long as possible before you cook it. So it's really, really moist, and all the milk and eggs soak into the bread. After that, covering it and doing a very low, slow bake is the way to go. Just like we were talking
With
about
baked potatoes, yeah.
But the bread pudding will be fluffy and moist that way. When I do it at home, I put saran wrap on the over it, and then I put foil over it. And then I bake
You can
it in
do
a
that?
water
Really
bath.
steam it.
Oh,
And I really steam it in a water bath. And it's jiggly and really fluffy.
say.
Now, the next part to this, and you put golden raisins in the bread pudding too. So the next part is the sauce. It's not a sauce, it's icing. It's melted icing. And all you really do is whip butter and powdered sugar and straight bourbon until it's icing. I mean, it's like a pound of butter to 2 pounds of powdered sugar to a cup of raw bourbon. And you whip that until it's like frothy and good.
Yeah.
And you just slap it on the bread pudding and it melts on
and if you're
top.
doing this at home, you can do bourbon here and then in there, and bourbon here and bourbon there.
You got to know your product quality control, right?
Yeah,
Try
exactly.
your stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's how they make it.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's just good because they do it. They put in the effort. They use good ingredients and they do it right. There's nothing, difficult or fancy about it.
yeah.
It's just done good.
So Ellis, you get same excitement. You just get excited this time of year. It's like your time of year, isn't it? It's you. It's what you do.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy Keeneland. I enjoy all times of the year with racing, and we have, big races in the summer at Saratoga, New York.
So
and
you
in
go all
spring
the
in
circuit
Florida.
then. You go everywhere. Yeah.
Well, I stay in Lexington, but I do everywhere. But I want to make a comment about the sauce Jeremy was talking about. I don't know if I ever told this funny story because the sauce is renowned, as Jeremy just said. And there was a time when there was a lot of people in the press box at Keeneland, and once a year they'd bring a tray of the bread pudding and they'd have the sauce separately and in a little bucket. You're supposed to heat the sauce up and pour it on top. Well, I'll tell you, the sauce disappeared way before the bread pudding.
That's right.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that sounds great. So will you do anything with Derby, or are you kind of Keeneland or do you, other than you're very interested in it? Oh.
No, I mean it's so much fun that the 2 days, as everybody knows, you can follow. It's just not the Derby and the Oaks. I mean, they're probably going to have 10 or 11 races on Friday, Kentucky Oaks Day the 5th, and then on Derby Day the 6th, 11 or 12, maybe 13. Hopefully, right now the weather forecasters are predicting a decent day on Saturday. Usually a little drizzles on Friday. We'll see how that goes. But I mean, I go through the entire card. So I do that for our website, lecobase.com,
Okay.
and various of the betting outlets. I put together a whole selection, about 10 pages or so for both days. So I'll be kind of wrapped up on Tuesday and Wednesday doing those races just in time to get ready to go out and visit with all the fine folks at Azure at Bourbon and Bets and kind of take a day off, take a nap, and then
Hit it
Friday
again.
and Saturday I'm at Churchill Downs working with lots of fine fans and helping them hopefully cash a few tickets.
Sounds great. Sounds fantastic.
Any before we go, any last minute, like not particular horse tips, but tips on betting in general for the novice? Is there anything you can give us? How to put your money down, or maybe how to some of the exotic bets we might understand for a novice bettor. Are there any just little tips you can give us to help?
Well, yeah, I know it's intimidating. So one of the things I always tell people is when you go to the races and you're having fun socializing and eating and drinking, like so many people do at Keeneland, the most important thing is just to bet a horse to win, place, and show. We call it across the board. So you bet $2 to win, $2 to place, $2 to show on one horse, $6 bet. You could bet more. But then you win something, whether it comes in first, second, or third, gives you something to root for in a race. That's the best.
Which is the fun part.
Exactas can get a little tough trying to pick first and second. Always box it, which means starting with the number of horses, the minimum, which is two, one to come in first, one to come in second in any order. In a bigger field, you might box 3 or 4 horses, $1 minimum. So a 3 horse exacta box costs you $6. You got 6 chances to win out of 30 or 40 or 50, depending on the number of horses in a race. And that's the basic things I tell people to do when you're there. As far as looking at them, there's nothing more fun than picking your own horses, and that's just a matter of looking at the distance of the race, looking at the horse's history, just reading a little bit of how to read the information in the program, and seeing how they've run in those similar races in the past. Before you know it, you eliminate a few, and you have one or two horses that you think are run better than the rest, and then lay your money down.
And who has the momentum at the
There you
time.
go.
Yeah, sounds
Lay
good.
your money down.
Lay
Hey,
it down.
baby.
Yeah,
Do
just
it.
be happy if you take anything back. Ellis Starr,
Thank you, Ellis.
be good. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Everybody have a great week.
You
We'll talk
too.
Thank
soon.
you.
All right, everybody. Back in a moment. It's Food News and Shoes Radio.